Hi, hello friends. Okay, a couple notes before this video. I will be reading from A Court of Mist and Fury, from parts of chapter 55, so if you haven't read it, spoiler alert for that. Also, this is like my first kind of attempt at a skit. It's not great. I did my best. I hope you think it's funny, but this is in relation to my video from last week about the parents who are trying to get like a restraining order on Barnes & Noble over selling this book and genderqueer. Anyway, this is if Justice Clarence Thomas had to read some of ACOMAF. It's a joke. Hope you think it's funny. But there is more after the skit, so stay tuned. Like and subscribe, okay?
Oh, he's coming. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little nervous. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, you know. Whew, okay. Hi, Justice Thomas. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me. Well, hello, you are very welcome. Although I am afraid this meeting will be a waste of both of our times. Justice, I really do understand. However, there are parents out of Virginia that are very concerned that there's some very obscene material that's available to their children in both their schools and in public libraries and in the bookstores. I would have taken this meeting a lot sooner if I had known that. Yes, there are parents who are in Virginia Beach especially, who have been fighting with the local courts, and now it's obviously made its way up here to the Supreme Court because they are very concerned with these books that are available to their children's precious eyes. They are available in their school libraries, public libraries, and Barnes & Noble, which is a huge retailer, and they have obviously read these texts, and they include very obscene material. One of the people involved in this case, a congressional candidate, Tommy Altman, even said that most adults feel uncomfortable having these words read aloud. And so if an adult feels uncomfortable, what do the children feel? These liberals and what they consider literature. What is this book even called anyway? So to start, we have two books that are being challenged. One is called Genderqueer, which is a graphic memoir, and the other is A Court of Mist and Fury. Mist and Fury, is it one of those science fiction novels that those kids like to read? No. Justice, this is an adult fantasy novel, and it is written by a woman, and it is about fae and apparently friendships and battles, but also includes some really graphic on-page sexual themes that have been deemed pretty lewd. Now, we didn't get a copy of Genderqueer in time, but we will have a copy of that in time for when all of the justices convene together, because I know Justices Kavanaugh and Barrett especially will really like to observe both text, but for now we just have The Court of Mist and Fury. And since Tommy Altman did say that he believes these words would embarrass even an adult, I thought that I could bring the copy here for you and maybe have you read aloud. This book is available to children? Yes, it is available to children. From what I've heard is it started out as a young adult series, but the publisher later rebranded it. But a lot of bookstores and libraries have not caught up to that, and it is still very much in the young adult section, and even in the school libraries, which I just thought was bonkers. And of course, Barnes & Noble. And from my research that I've done online, there's a lot of youths reading these novels. A lot. There are other books in this series, and apparently they get even more graphic justice. Can you believe that? But from my research, as I said, I had to go on the TikTok app. Apparently there is a chapter specifically referenced often, a chapter 55, and so if you could turn to that chapter and please read for us what it says. quite a large book. Well, we're already off to a rough start with this cover. This is a provocative dress on a young woman. And this is what the youths are reading. This is being carried in schools in America. Glasses, this is chapter 55. I mean, I would like to say at least the kids are reading, but I watched him consume every spoonful, his eyes darting between where I stood and the soup. When he was done, he set down his spoon. "Aren't you going to say anything?" he said at last. "I was going to tell you that I decided the moment I saw you on the threshold." Reese twisted in his seat toward me. And now, aware of every breath, every moment, I sat in his lap. At first I thought we were off to a good start just talking about soup. And now a young woman is sitting in a man's lap. His hands gently braced my hips as I studied his face. "And now I want you to know, Rhysand, that I love you. I want you to know." His lips trembled and I brushed away the tear that escaped down his cheek. "I want you to know," I whispered, "that I am broken and healing, but every piece of my heart belongs to you, and I am honored to be your mate." How old are these people? While I don't like the young lady sitting on his lap or his hands on her hips, this isn't so bad. I know. It starts off a little more G-rated than gets to PG, but Justice, you have to keep reading. Oh dear. It was gentle, soft, the kiss he might have given me if we'd been granted time and peace to meet across our two separate worlds, to court each other. I slid my arms around his shoulders, opening my mouth to him, and his tongue slipped in, caressing my own. Mate, my mate. He hardened against me, and I groaned into his mouth. Who is allowing this filth to be in our schools? Keep going. Keep going? There's more? Oh, God. The sound snapped whatever leash he'd had on himself, and Rhysand scooped me up in a smooth movement before laying me flat on the table, amongst and on top of all the paints. He deepened the kiss, and I wrapped my legs around his back, hooking him closer. He tore his lips from my mouth to my neck, where he dragged his teeth and tongue down my skin as his hands slid under my sweater and went up to cup my breast. Are you gonna edit that out? We shouldn't be saying that on national television. Oh, yes, we will definitely be editing this out. Ooh. This is so embarrassing. I arched it to the touch and lifted my arms as he peeled away my sweater in one easy motion. Rhys pulled back to survey me, my body naked from the waist up. What woman with any self-respect is writing something this obscene? Paint soaked into my hair, my arms, but all I could think of was his mouth as it lowered to my breast and sucked. His tongue flicking against my nipple. You better be editing this. This is shameful. This is just, how much is left? How much more do you want me to embarrass myself? I am obviously uncomfortable. That man was right. What adult would not be embarrassed to read these words, let alone hear them out loud? Rhys pulled back again, and I let out a bark of protest. That choked off into a gasp as he gripped my thighs and yanked me to the edge of the table. Through paints and brushes and cups of water, hooked my legs over his shoulders to rest on either side of those beautiful wings, and knelt before me. Knelt on those stars and mountains inked on his knees. He would bow for no one and nothing but his mate, his equal. Are you really gonna make me read this? The first lick of Rhysand's tongue set me on fire. I want you splayed out on the table like my own personal feast. Me and Jenny don't even get up to stuff like this. Why is this even written in anything that's considered literature? This is a waste of paper and of ink. This is deprived. This is disgusting. What? He licked and kissed his way to the apex of my thighs, just as his fingers were placed where his mouth had been, pumping inside me as he sucked. No, I cannot, I will not read any further. Absolutely not. We need to call all of the justices in here right now. This is obscene, absurd. Any other book written by this woman cannot be trusted. If this is what's in this book, and this is for adults, what is in the other book? Genderqueer, did you say? They are poisoning our children. They are brainwashing our future. What are they supposed to think when they read something like this? That people who have autonomy over their bodies should enjoy sex? Absolutely not. What? That women are supposed to derive pleasure from sex? Absolutely not. You are there to lay and be impregnated by your partner. That's one of those woke words. Excuse me, it just slipped out. By your husband to make children for God's army. This is written by the devil. This is for heathens and sinners. Oh my God. I have served this country for so long and can't believe that all I have worked for, all I stand for, all that Jenny has done, and this is what people are writing and printing and reading. This is an abomination. Take this mic off me. Where's my cell phone? I'm calling Jenny. This is out of control. Get the mic off me. Get the mic. I'm so sorry, Justice. I'm so sorry.
Okay, thank you if you watched through my terrible skit. I hope you got a laugh, but honestly, this whole thing was like, I had to do that to not scream about it. Oh, look, I got my plate in the way. I'm having a snack. But, so the quote that I put up on the screen, it was from a Publishers Weekly article that came after the original article that I saw. So this article is again talking about these people in Virginia who are filing this legal action, citing this random law about obscenity. And so the two books again that they focused on are Genderqueer, which is a graphic memoir, and then ACOMAF, A Court of Mist and Fury. And they said they are obscene for unrestricted viewing by minors. Excuse me. And like I said, that dude said most adults feel uncomfortable having these words read aloud. And I'm like, what adults are you around? Because sure, it could be cringy, but I'm not like uncomfortable. Like, oh, that's so improper. Like, grow up. And then this person said, this is not about book banning. It's about restoring parental rights. And here I want to focus because no one is taking their right. It is within your parental right to say, I don't want my child to read that. This would be different if it was a teacher saying, we're reading A Court of Mist and Fury for class. And then you said, no, I don't want my child to read that. Everyone else can. I don't want my child to read that. And the teacher was like, no, they have to read it. Then maybe you have an argument with the school and with the teacher. But you, because you don't want your kid to read this book, do not get to make some law or file something to go and try to put limits on what other children can read. Like, it's so absurd. Also in this article, it said that all the other judges in the area recused themselves. So the person who is helping and who issued this order is retired. It says a retired Petersburg area judge. Why is that even allowed? You're retired. You should be done. So the court's order raises the possibility that the court could issue a restraining order barring the books from public display and restraining booksellers and libraries from selling or loaning the books to minors without parental consent. So they said that they were hailing the judge's order as a major legal victory, laid out a playbook for those seeking to restrict access to materials they find objectionable. Suits like this can be filed all over Virginia. There are dozens of books, hundreds of schools. And this is the problem. This is just the beginning. These are just these two. I don't know how they came up with these two. But there it is right there. They want to claim that people are restricting parental rights. They're not, because you have your right to control what your children are reading, what kind of media they're consuming. And then they said it restricts public display. So this is just to start with this book. Who knows what the next it could be? Books about, because there's a lot of states that are trying to ban or restrict books about immigrant stories and Black stories and any kind of marginalized identity stories. So you're going to ban them from public display. So what do they have to be in the back? What is this? Like a freaking old school porn shop where the tapes are in behind the curtain? And then restraining booksellers and libraries from selling or loaning the books to minors without parental consent. Again, every parent has the choice. So maybe your child is more mature, more advanced, and they can read this book, and someone else's can't. And then for him saying, they're spreading the word on how to restrict access to books that they don't think are appropriate. Like, hey, let's find all these random laws. Here's how we do it. So it's just these two books. It's not just these two books. This is just the beginning. And this is absurd. In a statement issued this week, Freedom to Read advocates say the intent of this obscenity action is clear: to prevent readers from making a personal choice to read these books, and as a means to criminally prosecute libraries or librarians, booksellers, and publishers for making materials they disapprove of available to the public. You know what I disapprove of? That a Bible's in every hotel room. Let's get it out. Let's get it out. What's that? I don't approve of that. Another quote is, if the persons, like the petitioners, obtain similar orders every time they have objections to a book, it will chill the freedom to read and stifle the voices of authors and publishers. The undersigned organization strongly urge Virginians and all Americans to stand against any attempt to use government action to dictate what we can read and how to think about what we read. Prohibiting the sale and distribution of books is an affront to our democratic values and threatens each person's and each family's individual liberties. It is contrary to our principles of democracy to allow anyone, regardless of their beliefs or political position, to determine what other Americans can read. Again, you see where it said that? Threatens each person's and each family's individual liberties. That's what y'all do in your house? Great. But don't come over here and try to tell me what to do in mine. This article said the Supreme Court has established a narrow test for obscenity that requires that the text as a whole, even if it references sex or nudity, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. And neither of these books challenged in the case comes remotely close to meeting the Supreme Court's long-established criterion for a finding of obscenity. They have other things in them besides sexual content. This is just so bad, and I just hope it gets shut down, and like they need a new law or something. Like, this can't be a thing. This should be a thing. This shouldn't even be an issue that I'm talking about right now. So anyway, I'll link that article down below. Also, I don't think my my embodiment of Clarence Thomas was accurate, and I don't care, because he can kick rocks. I don't know him. This was just a joke. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.